Hey, is that microphone on?
Which one? This one over here?
It is now.
Is it now? Sweet.
You'd think like we've never done this before.
Okay,
right?
we have Devin now. Devin's here.
Welcome to the show, Devin.
Welcome to the GYST Life podcast. It is our hope that the gritty, real, and uncensored insights we share with you here will help you get your shit together as you explore and discover what it takes to live your best life on your terms.
I love this, man. This is great. This is like the normal preamble, the banter before a podcast episode.
Yes,
Are we?
missing this polished version we've been giving you?
That's right. Are we? So are we? We're like, we're set up. We're ready
good
to go.
The live stream is live.
Hey.
If people join. If people don't, it doesn't matter.
If you love us, do us a huge favor. If you're just like friends or family showing up right now, do us a huge favor. Hit share wherever that is. I don't know where it is. Copy the link.
I don't know about you guys, but
if you're finding this right now or you're finding it right now.
right or right now.
Yeah.
Or
My friends and family are like the last people that listen.
Yeah,
No, that's
like,
not.
They hear you talk all the time.
You know what actually is funny about that is like that's not actually true. I know I'm joking anyway, but it's really interesting when you go and meet with people and you hang out and stuff like that. Somebody you haven't seen in a while, and then you find out that they've actually been listening to your podcast for like a year.
you're like,
You're like, oh yeah, man,
shit.
you guys, and I'm just like,
They know
oh,
what you've been up to.
yeah. You're like, it's
Like,
creepy.
Yeah. It's crazy because I think about this quite frequently, being that I'm a musician and like I've recorded my entire life in music form for the last, I don't know, 5 years by myself. I've done it with other people years preceding that, but I'll meet people and they know everything about me and they're telling me things that I'm like, how do you know? It's just so weird because now to them we're best friends.
Yeah.
To me,
Yeah.
like, because they know everything about me, right? They know all my intimate secrets and details and whatever because it's in the music. I should stop doing that. But I don't know anything about them, and so when I meet them, I feel like I'm at a disadvantage almost. Like, I don't know how to communicate with this person because you know so much, and I don't even know, like, what's your favorite color? What's your dad's name?
Yeah.
I don't know, man.
It's interesting when you say it that way though, because it's like they have a different level of relatedness because of the access that they had or whatever to the content or the music or whatever. They have a different level of relatedness with you than you do with them. So then there's the opportunity, right?
Yeah.
You could just say like, this is amazing. I feel like I don't know anything about you. Let's get caught up. You've already got my life story dialed in.
It's hard because like I'm the kind of guy that likes to hear myself talk. I just talk for the sake of talking. I'm that guy.
We
when somebody
never
shows
knew
up,
that.
I'm
You
supposed
can't
to
tell.
You can't tell, man.
I'm supposed to shut up and listen to these people, but I'm like, no, I got more shit to tell you. From the last episode, I learned some things. Let me tell you about this other
let me tell you what I learned. I'm gonna learn me. I'm gonna learn you what you learned me, so that you
Yeah.
can learn me what I learned. Wait, something.
Yeah. My partner
We're learning.
actually told me the other day, he's like, you need to shut up in meetings. You talk too much.
But that's a good partner, man.
Yeah.
That is a good partner.
No, I was very grateful for the feedback. I'm like, I know, man, I'm an idiot. I'm sorry.
Dude, it's taken me so much practice, and obviously I do get off track from time to time, but it's taken me so much practice to learn to shut the fuck up. Even like no shit, like when I'm at like a seminar or something or a talk, I not like obnoxiously or out of control, but I just didn't realize, I didn't have that awareness that I'm sitting listening. You're performing,
Right.
you're doing a talk, and then you say something funny, and I gotta bust out a one-liner.
Yeah.
And I look like a complete fucking asshole, and I had no idea.
You're the heckler. And
I didn't even know.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that I was the
relate to
heckler.
that. Yeah.
It's like so bad. And I remember one time I was at this talk, and I actually got to think about it later. I reflected back. So shout out to Sam Crowley. he's a guy who teaches podcasting and does coaching, all this stuff. I was actually with Maya out in David's wife out in Surrey, right? Like by Vancouver, Surrey, BC. I was out there at this weekend event, and this guy was doing this talk, and I remember this guy Sam Crowley, he was he's really funny, super entertaining. So I was like feeling like engaged and connected, right?
Right, I remember this story.
And then I can't remember exactly how it went. He said something like one of those corny dad jokes, something about like, oh, I'm not the sharpest knife in the tool shed, but he said it incorrectly to me anyway,
Right.
how I knew the reference. And then I like yelled out and corrected him. And then all of a sudden him and I had like this 45-second interaction back and forth where we were just chatting and kind of, it was funny.
Yeah.
So I thought it was like funny. And then at the end he was kind of like, oh boy, he's like, how far off the rails are we right now, do you think? Right? Something like that. And I just thought that was also a joke building off of what we just created together because we just made it this magic.
Yeah.
And then like later on, like a year later, I realized actually it was on the podcast, me and David were chatting. I was like, "Oh wow, I'm an asshole." Oh, right.
And good for him though, as the presenter, to be able to engage and
he was a
transfer
pro, man.
that,
A pro.
you know, and keep going. That's incredible.
Yeah, it was awesome. He's an absolute pro. Fortunately, I kept my mouth shut after that, but I still was blissfully unaware.
Right. We
You don't even
there's
know
people-
why you kept your
Ignorance
mouth
was
shut.
actually
You
bliss.
just
I don't even
decided
know
to.
why I kept my mouth shut. It's
people
just
who have
like,
practiced listening their whole lives, but they don't talk very much. And then there's people who don't listen and talk too much, and I'm on that side. I wonder what it's like for the people on the other side, like not talking ever.
Well, they feel like they don't have a voice.
well, no, there's two different contexts, right? There's people who feel like they don't have a voice, they don't talk, they can't speak up, but there's also the person who's practiced. Listening is a skill. So
A wise man once
they've-
said nothing at all.
Yeah, exactly. They've practiced listening. They're always. It's hard to learn when you don't shut up. And
But
I can
but
speak
those
directly to that.
those people find the opportunity to have a voice,
No, that's what I'm saying.
right?
They speak when it makes a difference.
Yes.
They speak when they need to speak versus some people.
Won't at all.
Yeah, they feel exactly
Yeah.
feel silenced. You know.
So we're still on our. It's almost like being at the concert and you're the only one there, waiting for all the guests to arrive,
Yeah.
and you're playing, and you're like,
I've done that once.
"Do we have the right venue?"
Are we in the right place?
Yeah, we're officially.
We're officially live.
We're on the podcast, and there's no one here with us.
Yes, and I love. So this is a really great. This is how it always goes, right? I don't know about you, but I look at some of the people that influence me and inspire and motivate me, keep me going forward, and they've got the audience, and it's not just an audience; it's a captive audience. And you think it just happens, but it doesn't happen, and it's an organic thing, and it's step 1 out of 1,000. But it requires us to try it on and see what it's like and figure it out, and then people go, oh, I see. So this isn't just a one trick pony thing. You
Yeah.
guys are actually going live, and you're doing it every Saturday at 10:30. Plug, by the way. That this is the thing that you said you wanted to do it for a while, Vern.
Yeah.
And I've been resistant to it because I have it that we don't have everything in place yet. And that's the problem, right?
Isn't that what we do?
Yes. Oh, I'll be ready when.
Yeah, you keep putting it off.
And that time never happens.
Yeah, and it's also what you're pointing to is so powerful, man. It's the willingness to go through we just did a live stream and nobody listened.
Totally.
And we just did 50 live streams and 10 people listened. Like whatever. Like it's just the willingness to go through and getting better and making the mistakes and air quote looking like an idiot. Like you just go and do it. There's those who do that, and then there's 99.9% of human beings who just don't.
Yes.
Right? And then wonder why it never turned out.
Well, and the assumption in that is always that everybody has heard what you're up to. But we're in a noisy arena, right? There's like 1,200 bands playing in the arena.
Seems legit.
And you're wondering why yours is empty.
Man. And there's all kinds of flashing lights. There's a bunch of signs.
Yeah, totally.
Right?
Pointing
Like,
in 1,000 different directions.
Totally, man. Everybody looking for what they think they want versus really looking at what they actually want. Right? Or searching for what is it that I actually want? Because you might not know.
Well, and so they're concert hopping. Like, hey, is this it?
They're concert browsing.
They're concert browsing.
This is the genre I'm looking for today.
It's like the new window shopping.
The new window shopping. When I said I wanted to do this for a while, I mean, I'm totally down to do a live stream, but what I was actually referring to mostly was when you said, like, let's just put it out. Like, we don't have to do a bunch of, all the production all of the, it's great. It makes it look wicked, but to everybody's point here, we're all up to stuff. We're all doing things. We all have different skill sets, and it hinders what's possible, right?
I look at it from a level of high value versus high quality. people think high quality means that you have to have $10,000 cameras and hundreds of lights and have
Right.
this perfect
Totally.
set
Yeah,
and
that
all this
doesn't
really,
make the
but that you're
difference.
missing the point. The only reason why people are going to be here, it's not because we got fancy lights. We could be here talking about shit that's completely irrelevant to people, and that's why they're not here. And we have the highest production quality, but people still don't come. And we're like, why aren't they coming? We have the $10,000 worth of gear,
Yeah, totally.
right? So
should
it's
be
the high
pounding on the
value
door.
content, and I think that that's the biggest part of like what is going to gather people around our water cooler.
Yeah, for sure. And to build off that, it's the same thing with, you'll see a lot of like ads or people are putting stuff out there, but it's all like, it occurs to you as like, this is bullshit,
Pitchy.
like pitchy, or I don't,
People
whatever.
being sold to.
Yeah, exactly. And you're like, I'm not interested, versus somebody just giving you a straight message and being like, yo, this is what I'm up to, or this is who I am, or whatever. You're like, oh, wow, I don't know why, but I'm drawn to this person.
Yeah.
Right? Because it's straight. Especially, I love to hear people tell their real stories. Like, it's great to hear like the success, but I want to know the real
The
shit.
grit.
I want to know, okay, you're successful now, you look great, awesome. What was life like for you 10 years ago?
Yeah.
I want to know how you got here. I want to know that journey. And that's what we're up to here. That's what we're actually sharing, is like, look, we're most of us are fathers. We're all entrepreneurs. We're all living in today's world. That's exactly what David and I talked about when we first started this podcast, is like, man, we need like a medium. We need to get, it's all here inside me. We need to get this out. And
When you encounter people along your journey, you're like, I have things that could help you along the way, and sometimes it's hard in those moments to
We
like
have Maya
communicate
joining
those.
us right now.
welcome, Maya.
Well,
My
Maya.
biggest fan.
Yeah, that's awesome. I didn't know that people could like, I don't know, I'm a dummy. I didn't know, like, you join, or listen directly, like, to me,
This is just a classic blind spot. That's all this is.
Oh,
This
man.
is, you don't know what you
I feel
don't
like we're in
know.
a spaceship right now.
You know what's going to be really cool is when we get the integration with Facebook and Twitter, and people actually start
LinkedIn,
commenting.
YouTube.
LinkedIn and YouTube, yeah. And when they start commenting, they're asking questions. It's like it takes the conversation to a whole nother level, because you
Yeah.
have so many people contributing to it. And that's where the value comes from, is like being able to interact with people, because there's a sense of like, I don't feel like an expert, but like that's because you know what you know. Somebody else who doesn't know what you know, like for example, that people join the room, right?
Yeah.
When you don't know that information, you need it. So to you, it's old hat, but to them, it's necessary.
Right.
So having the space to have those conversations, to be like, oh, I know a thing about that, right? Like you're the financial guy, you're the spiritual guy, I'm the business guy, David's the branding guy. Like there's so much behind all of the things that we can contribute back to these people now, and having them there asking questions will elevate the podcast.
To your point though, it's like, we all talk to people all the time, and I get surprised on a regular basis that somebody doesn't know something that I know.
Yeah,
you
you
know,
just assume the world knows it.
Yeah, that has been the assumption for me that I've carried on for most of my life, that how I look at the world and how I operate and what is easy for others.
Totally.
And then always surprised by it. Not as surprised anymore, because
Yeah.
I get it.
Yeah.
And it's all inside of the belief and the understanding that what you bring to the table is significant and unique, and not everybody has that perspective or that insight or that capacity. Oh man, to be able to show people that that's what's possible for them.
Yeah, totally. In whatever their thing is.
Yeah, whatever that is.
Right. Not only can you learn my thing, but you can actually take your thing to the next level.
Well, and take that even deeper. Realize that that's the value that you have intrinsically as a human being.
Totally. Your experience.
My
right?
sister just experienced a breakup, and didn't realize, because the guy that she was with really devalued her, and she didn't realize the value that she showed up with. And so she literally thought if she didn't wake up every morning and make him breakfast and do this and do this and do this, that he was going to leave her. And she was living in fear of that, rather than realizing, I show up and I do this, this, and this, and I have value, and that's why you're here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? On
Yeah.
the flip side of it. So like all the little things that we think are just, this is just me, like to David's point, I know this stuff, somebody else doesn't know it, but why isn't it easy for that person? It's because that person just hasn't had the light turned on for that thing, and then hasn't realized that they actually are just as they are, valuable as a human being. So you devalue yourself, and you you take away or you strip those things away when you communicate with other people. When you try and say something to somebody, you're like, well, not that I know anything. I'm an idiot, but you know,
I'm
this
a dummy.
thing. Yeah.
A dummy. Yeah, totally.
Yeah,
think
the
we heard that
narrative, the
today.
stories that
That's-
you're telling yourself.
That's a total. I got a lot of stories and narratives that I tell myself, and That's why developing yourself is a mountain with no top. Right? There's no arrival. I have this now. I have it as a joke, but I refer to that all the time. I'm like, oh, I'm a dummy, right? Like, I don't
It's so
actually
automatic.
Yeah, I don't actually believe it. It's just a thing that I say, and it totally comes from my past, right?
Yeah, but do you or don't you actually believe it? Have you
No, I
ever,
don't.
have you ever like examined that a little bit?
For about the last 10 years straight,
Yeah.
on a daily, regular basis, yeah.
I know myself
this is
because
my-
I
this is my
realize
life, right?
there's shit that I tell myself that it seems innocuous. But you repeat it so often that it just becomes like regular.
Well, it turns into a belief system.
Right, and it becomes who you are, and so you define yourself by that thing. Even though you try not to, it's in your vulnerable moments when it really shows up.
So there was a time where Vern believed that,
Yeah.
without a doubt. And now it is an unraveling of a nasty little habit, tick, if you will,
Yeah.
that comes in and kind of kicks you in the, I don't know, kicks you in the balls every once in a while, and it hurts, and you're like, God, why did you do that? But
Yeah.
it's not there, it's not pervasive anymore, but
Well, it's like what Devin's saying. It's like we're reprogramming our brains. I've been Vern for 35 years. I was Vern for 25 years before I even started to look at who I was, right? And so I started to look at who I was, and it was a really scary place because I started to look at who I was and thought that that's actually who I was, if that makes sense.
Yep.
Like, oh my God, I am a piece of shit who's not capable of anything. Look at my results. Look at my life, whatever, right? And so there was a deep crevice to dig out of, right? And you really are reprogramming your brain, because at that time I believed it, and not only my default, my actual way of being, my ordinary automatic way of being was, oh, you're a dummy. And so constantly things would show up that would give me evidence for that. Yeah. Right. And so now, hold on one sec. Right now, the times when that really shows up is either A, when I'm like, oh, I'm a dummy. It's like a air quote, a joke, when I'm not paying attention that I actually just said that. And number two is it's when I'm not present, I get triggered. And then my default old neural pathway shows up, and I'm caught in it. But what's occurred over the last 10 years is the refractory period of where I have that breakdown, and then I get back to consciously being who I say I am is shortened dramatically, right? So there used to be days, weeks, months where I would totally take myself out of things.
You'd be in the pity party.
Yeah, I'd be in the pity party. I'm a piece of shit. Like, see, why am I even bothering with this stuff? It's all bullshit. I would show up at seminars still like, you know, like, right? Like, they're not coachable, you know? And now it's just, I'm just not committed to that. I'm like, what's going on with me right now? I will do what I have to do to get my shit back together. Like, call somebody or tell somebody what's going on, or just grind through it until I go, oh, I'm not a dummy. Okay, I see. Right, or whatever. Anyway, so, sorry, Chris, you were going to add something.
Well, I was going to take it a little bit further, because it's not just the brain, it's not just the nervous system, it's your entire cellular structure. So your whole body is responding as if that's a thing, and it's probably no coincidence that I'll say for myself and for you, the things that we were lifed with in our past ended up living in our bodies, ended up being stored in our bodies and in other places. And so it's like, as we move our bodies, as we get our bodies healthier, because the body is the last storage depot for those old patterns. You've gone to work on the patterns mentally. You've gone to work on the patterns emotionally. You've probably gone to work on the patterns even spiritually to transform them, because you know that when that pattern shows up, it's like, nah, it's not me. It's just an old thing. So where it lives, or where it ends up staying, is within the physical structure. And then as you move the physical structure, as you modify the physical structure, as you exercise, as you reshape your neural pathways with, if you choose to use psychoactive substances or things like this to help you break down those neurological engrams or those memory engrams, the way the neurons that have wired together because they have fired together as often as they have fired together.
The pathways, right?
Yeah. When you release it out of the physical body, because the physical body is a representation of the unconscious mind, and it very much is a representation of the past. Because by the time something is showing up in the physical body, it's already occurred thousands upon thousands upon thousands of times in other areas, whether that's within the mind, whether that's within the emotions, whether that's from an ancestral pattern, whatever it is. When you're releasing it now out of the physical structure, you're telling your cells to do things different, to be new, and
Literally burning the bridges.
Literally burning the bridges.
What's worse is, I don't know if anybody's ever encountered this, but it's almost painful going through that experience physically, because you're transforming from an old version of you to a new version of you.
Yeah, your DNA has to now generate new proteins.
And so that discomfort also like makes it hard to continue down that path. So you naturally want to just, no, that hurts too much. Default back to, this was still okay. It's not horrible, but it's safe.
Well, that points to something super interesting that I've discovered through my experience, ironically enough, through getting acupuncture when I was a kid, was that there's a difference between pain and an intense sensation. There's a difference between something being painful and something being intense. And intensity is not pain. Intensity is just intensity. So I can have a really strong sensation show up and it's not painful.
Do you have a tattoo?
I don't have a tattoo.
Man, that was fucking painful.
It's the first tattoo I got was this one. And then since then I've been addicted and I want more. I'm getting more. But it's like that experience. It's like, well, does this register? Like, I get to choose, which is so weird. Like, anybody hearing that is like, you're a fucking crazy psycho. But I got to choose in that experience, is this pain or is this pleasure? What is this sensation? And disconnecting from what I was programmed to believe pain is to what I want this experience to be, this was more therapeutic. And like, full disclosure, I was a super emo kid and I did self-harm. There was a lot of like weird shit that I went through as a kid. And so moving into the realm of artistically creating inside of the space of tattoos. When I was getting my tattoo, I remember going through that experience of like, the first little bit was like, shit, that does hurt. But I remember I would likened it to getting burned by a cigarette. I was like, okay, that's not horrible. I'm not dying. So I think I'll survive this tattoo like millions of other people. But then it transformed into like, that actually feels really good. I remember there's some parts on the back of my arm where I'm like, I enjoy that.
It's the same. I'm relating that because I've never had a tattoo. I'm relating it back to anytime I've done a lot of hard work and different types of training. But what I'm connecting this to right now is that what do they call that? The sweat that I went to at the sweat lodge at the reserve. Yeah. It was like on one hand, when I was in my body, right? Like, it's like when I was here in the physical, I'm like, oh my God, this is awful. I gotta get me out of here. It's so fucking hot. I can't breathe, blah, 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 right? But then when I actually got like, I don't know, with the soul, spirit, I literally, I told you guys this before, I had this conversation. I'm like, wow. I'm fine, actually. Like, my body is experiencing these things. Yes. I'm actually rather enjoying this because
consciousness.
I got to go somewhere else. I had to actually, because I couldn't be in here because it's unbearable. I had to go somewhere else, and I was like, oh, there's actually more going on. I believed that, but it was like an affirmation. I was like, oh, wow, I can actually choose to be over here versus in my body experiencing that.
Weirdly, right? I asked my tattoo artist, I was like, do you know what the world record is for the longest tattoo? Because I think I can beat it.
So what was it for you in terms of its therapy? What was it doing for you? What was it helping you push through, resolve? Like, why did it show up as therapy?
That's a really good question.
Yeah. And I constantly try to analyze what that is and what that means, what that looks like, at least for me. I don't know about anybody else. I remember having this conversation actually with my ex-wife. I was like, I don't like you getting tattoos from other guys because those guys are giving you pleasure and it's in a way that I can't, and I don't like that. Oh,
damn, that's deep.
Right? And that was just me being insecurity, transparent with my own like emotional state. But now when I went and got my tattoo, I was like, oh shit, it's a different kind of pleasure. Like, it's not like what I thought or perceived it to be.
So what did you think it was? What was the story? Because we all know there's a difference, a big difference between how we think it's going to go, what we think it is, and then the reality of what's going on, what's happening.
Right. So at first it was like, I thought, and again, this is because I was ignorant, I just didn't realize, but I almost thought there was a level of sexual pleasure to it. Because just the way that she spoke of it, you know? And it was disconnected for me. And that's why I felt inadequate. I was like, well, I can't please you that way, so I can't be the man that you need me to be, right? And this insecurity sets in. Yeah.
Hashtag monogamy.
Now, when I got my tattoo, my first tattoo, going through it, I remember this connected to this tribe of guys who got tattoos, and I was a part of it. And I was like, I am a man. And I really felt that connectedness.
It was like a rite of passage.
Yeah, really, like to the, I don't know, the what would you call that? Just like the conscious net of all men who have transcended into this manliness, this manhood that I was like, otherwise, like, if you don't get a tattoo, you're a pussy. Like, that's what I thought.
Wow,
Yeah,
so
right?
absolute.
So I'm like, so
Yeah,
I
yeah.
have to get a tattoo or I am that guy, right? So now now that I've crossed over that threshold, I'm like, oh no, there's so much more to it. It's like being able to control your mind and the interpretation of your external stimulus and what it means to you, and then you get to redefine it. And so experiencing this high level of pain, I'm like, I can do it. I am a man and I can do it. And I'm not afraid of it anymore. It's like getting punched in the face for the first time.
You sound like Kevin McAllister. I'm not afraid anymore. No, but it's what you're. This is really interesting because you can connect this to many different things. Okay, so my brother said to me last night, he was talking about somebody else in our family, and he said this person in our family is like, they're convinced this is their way of being. Well, you can't teach an old dog new tricks. In other words, how I am is how I am. That's their belief system, right? Yeah. And then he looks at me, and I was washing dishes in my kitchen. He looks at me and goes, Vern, what would you say to somebody if they said, you can't teach an old dog new tricks? And I'd say, okay. And he goes, well, what do you mean? I think that's bullshit. I said, yeah, I think that's bullshit too.
But you can't convince the dog that.
But see, but that's the thing that I'm pointing to.
Yes.
Is there is a version of myself in the past who would fucking argue with you all day long,
right?
About that thing that I'm right about.
Yeah, totally.
And then I just looked at him and I'd say, okay, if
that's what's up for you.
If that's what's up for you, why am I going to sit here and fucking argue and fight with you and try to convince you to think the way that I think?
If that is what is driving the show and reinforcing your way of operating in the world, and until you're willing to change the narrative yourself and go, holy shit, I'm an old dog, and I just learned a new trick.
Unless they say to me, look, man, my experience has been that you can't teach an old dog new tricks. Vern, talk to me about that.
What do you think?
Now they're open. Now they're coachable. I'm not going to sit here and try to argue and fight with somebody who's right. You're already right. How am I going to make you right?
I can't out-dominate your rightness to make you wrong.
So I'm just going to let it go, right? And that's something I've shared with you. I connected to that intimately from Simon Sinek when he shared that. I was listening to this interview, and that's exactly what the person said to him. Like, so what do you say to people who don't share your vision? What do you say to people who don't believe what you believe? And he says, I don't say anything. Why?
There's nothing to say.
He goes, yeah, like, if I'm not here to tell you that you're wrong about the way that you believe or what you think, or I can't remember exactly what he said, but that was the essence of it. He was like, well, fine, that's okay.
The amount of energy you spend on that, and really like treating your energy or whatever as a currency, realizing like, you're
exhausting.
giving so much away.
You're bleeding money out.
Yeah, you're in overdraft in your bank account. And you're wondering why you're tired and hate life or constantly frustrated and angry, is because you're in competition with all those other people to try and prove to them that you're right. And perhaps on a deeper level, it's because you don't think you're right. And so you have to test your level of rightness with everybody else.
Or you're afraid
to either confirm or deny that you are as right as you think you are. And the reality is, you are as right as you think you are if you think you are that right.
It's
so complicated.
It's not though.
No,
it's so absolute and just it. Full stop. That's it. You can't compromise it anymore because there's no space for it.
I have it that you're bang on though, right? When you get to the point of nothing, when you get to the point of like, no, this is who I am, this is what I believe, and I'm okay over here.
Right.
That's when you no longer have a need to convince other people.
Right.
That's just been my experience, because believe me, man, I was insecure AF, and I would always try to, depending on the situation, right? Like I'm trying to prove my point or make it or look a certain way because somebody challenged me or undermined me or made me feel. Does it creep up from time to time? Of course it does. But again, I can now notice it and make a new choice.
You have the habit now of quickly transferring back to comfortable as you.
Or I ask myself about it. I get introspective. What is it about that comment that's fucking driving me nuts? Why am I holding on to that?
Right.
And then it creates new access for me. And another step that I might take is I might even talk to the person. So, I got to share this with you. You said this thing the other day, and it's like right away my brain did this. And I totally get that that's not real, but I just wanted to or whatever. Like I've had conversations like that with people, and then it opens up a whole nother world where they're actually trying to acknowledge me, or like they were giving me credit for something, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm such a dope. I'm sitting, right? There's my default. I'm sitting here going, that guy thinks I'm this, or he thinks I'm that. But really, they just didn't know how to express it, or it came out a certain way, and I made it mean they think I'm bad and wrong. But really, they were actually trying to tell me I'm awesome or something, right? Like those types of things.
The package that they put it in to give it to you didn't seem like what it was supposed to be.
Totally.
We have Matt Bigger on the call.
Oh, what's up,
Welcome,
Matt? Yeah. So actually, I know you have some stuff you want to share.
I had bringing back to the comment that you guys had about the tattoos and about your experience in the sweat lodge. What I see in that, and I want to ask you guys if you have any more experiences like this. What I saw, or what I see in those types of instances, is that you get a empirical understanding that you are not your body. Your body is something you have, and I want to poke that a little bit and see if you've had other experiences where you have this understanding that you've either transcended the body, and David, I'll bring you into this too. Like,
that's so nice of you.
Pardon?
I said that's so nice of you.
Well,
sweet man.
I mean, there were 2 experiences on the court, and I want to have your experiences on the court too. I know. Like, where have been other experiences, or what other things have shown up where you've realized like you're not your body, or you're not your thoughts, or you're not your emotions, or like this human that you think that you are, you're actually not that, and you're something more, you're something greater.
You know what's crazy is I've always felt like, and maybe you've heard me say this before, but I've always felt like this supreme, ultimate, eternal essence or being trapped in a fucking meat suit.
Yeah, you had talked about that before.
Yeah. I've always felt like that, and then getting a tattoo, or anytime I've experienced a great deal of pain. I remember my car accident. I actually like caved in this side of my skull, and they luckily were able to like
holy shit
make it okay. But the pain that you go through for the next 2-3 weeks is like, you actually have to disconnect consciously from your physical essence, because it's like, this is too much pain, I need to leave.
I could see that happening.
I don't know if you have something, David, that you want to share. I'm really curious to know, like, sometimes you're like, to your point, okay, I got in a car accident, you actually had no choice, and then you got pushed to another level where you had to separate yourself. So was that your experience with your surgery?
I don't have enough history, like memory of that. It was so, I actually think it was the opposite. I was so connected to the body and what was going on, and the tragedy of it,
right,
and the possibility of like my life ending. There was no transcendence. There was a very I was very present in all the richness that was that experience. I think I had to be too. For myself, it was a way of grounding me, right? Now, I only can see that looking back, because in the moment, I was just wondering. It's a thing that happened to me, and it was scary and crazy, and like, how does this happen to people? Like, you're just so caught up in that world, and like, oh well, what if the really bad situation happens, okay, well, I need a backup plan.
Yeah.
And my backup plan was like my buddy putting a pillow over my face.
Yeah. So just for context, David had a brain surgery in your early 20s?
Early 20s,
Yeah.
21.
There's very few people walking around on Earth right now that have had their skull cut open by a doctor.
Yeah.
It's pretty fucking crazy. I can't even imagine.
You know, the one
Well, I
thing
can't
that,
imagine it, but
the one thing that I do remember vividly is being on the operating table and him telling me to count to 10
yeah,
and me just disappearing. Like
Yeah.
I felt myself go away.
yeah.
And then I woke up and it was like just pain to deal with, right?
Wow, yeah, no kidding.
Yeah.
I want to change gears a little bit if you guys are okay with it, because we talked earlier before the podcast about the how this occurred, the live stream, the new process that we're going to take, the new structure. We're going to
Let's
start
do it.
live streaming. Why can't I speak all of a sudden? Live streaming. See, we're not perfect. You know, we're not editing this. We're going to start live streaming now every week, right?
Every week.
10:30. So what had that occurred, David? What brought that on? Because we've talked about it for a while, right?
Well, we've been running this podcast for 3 years, and there's always been this desire. This is where it came from, to create community, to be connected to people. It was a great opportunity for us to bring people we admire onto the podcast and have a dialogue, share a story. And every single time I do that with anybody, there's always such a valuable, there's some sort of lesson, some sort of realization, some sort of aha moment that happens. And it's like, and that just disappears. It goes away, and it could impact so many other people. And so we wanted to do a podcast, and not only for that, but for us to get out of what it is that we're dealing with on a regular basis. And it's always in the language, right? You gotta, if you want to get rid of it, you got to talk about it.
Yeah.
And so putting it on the table as a thing to talk about, and having vulnerability, this willingness, this openness to just constantly be putting the thing on the table that we would not normally, frequently don't. And I still find myself, no, I'm good. How's it going? Oh, I'm good. And it's bullshit, right? But that's just the human being, right?
It's funny that that's the habit, the way we communicate. Hey, how you doing? And some people don't even answer that question. Like when I say, how you doing? They're like, how you doing? Like, that's not even an answer.
Yeah,
What the fuck are you saying?
Allison was saying, she's like, I like the life concept. It creates urgency, in my opinion.
Oh,
and there's a presence to it too.
Yeah.
So we don't get the luxury, and there's a devil's advocate to luxury of what I'm creating here, to do the edit. So we go in and we make sure we quote unquote get it right,
And we sound good.
and all of that stuff. And
based on our own criticisms
It's like
and interpretations.
photoshopping your pictures before you put them on Instagram.
Exactly.
Right, but it's all your criticisms and your insecurities about yourself. That's what we're editing versus just being with people right now.
What
and-
gives
and
us the
that's
right to
magic.
judge that?
Exactly.
Well, but that's just we judge and assess. We are meaning making machines. This is how we operate. So doing this and live streaming, I see it as a direct challenge to, you can't not get it right, get it perfect, because you're live, man.
Yeah.
You're live.
But what you're saying though too, just the fact that Allison, thanks so much for being here. It's so cool that we literally can now have a conversation with listeners, and she said it creates urgency. Yeah, exactly, because you're listening to this conversation in the moment right now, and if something hits you and something has an impact, you're like, oh shit. It's actually happening right now.
In the moment.
I get to do something. It's not like, oh, you're washing the dishes 3 days later, we've edited it, we've put it out, and you hear something, oh, that was so cool. You're not going to make a comment in that moment, whatever. Like, it's going to disappear.
Yes.
This is an opportunity to have an in-the-moment impact.
And here's where we're at. And Matt, you said a comment. I want to make sure I bring that up. We are 5 episodes archived, right? We haven't gone through the process of doing this stuff, and I know every single one of those episodes was massive
Massive value.
value in the moment, and it can so easily just disappear.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, we're just not going to produce those podcasts.
Even that episode with, I don't know if it's up yet, the one that Aaron joined us for. my buddy Aaron. Like, imagine
No,
that
it's
was
not
live
up
stream.
yet.
Imagine
It's
that
not
was
up yet.
live streamed. That was such a fucking
was a
wicked
powerful
conversation.
episode.
That whole, right? Yeah, man, I'm super stoked, and we will get those ones up. But for
we-
now,
we will.
Well, I also wanted to point to. So there was the live stream. You talked about why we started the podcast in the beginning, and like why did we start it, and then so we did that, and then we always wanted to live stream. But you had a conversation yesterday
Yes.
that wasn't just about live streaming. It was also just about how we deal with the podcast, right?
Yes. Well, and this brings Matt's conversation into it's perfect. He's like, not to mention the countless hours you're going to save not editing the podcast. It's actually a way better fit for the style of your content because it's so real and authentic.
Oh, man,
Gritty,
bang on.
real, and uncensored.
Right?
Now actually
Right?
on brand.
Oh, shit.
I thought about that last night when you talked about live stream. I was like, wait a minute.
That's actually
of course.
on brand.
Like, we are so hypocritical, man. Like,
Well, no, it took us to go through that
Yeah.
process of owning what that actually meant. And it took 3 years to get to this point where we're like, you know what? This is missing.
to be fair, I mean, there was a time that we did just put the podcasts out.
Yeah.
We didn't do a live stream. And I also think that there was less power in that because we used to put the podcast out because we're like, fuck it. We don't have time to make it look pretty. It wasn't a conscious choice. It was like, we don't have the time to make it look pretty.
Necessity.
So we'll just default to putting it out versus actually being in alignment with what we say we're up to, which is gritty, real, and uncensored, and just having a conversation right now, right?
What's really cool about all of that is there's a hidden lesson in this.
Oh,
And
always.
the fact that you guys have been doing this for as long as you have, I've only joined very recently, but realizing the power of ready, fire, aim.
Yeah.
Get as ready as you possibly can, but it's never going to be perfect. Fire, see where you hit on the target, and if you're close, cool. If you're not, cool. Because
Iterate.
both of them is going to show you some shit so that you can aim better.
Yes.
And
Hands
if you
down.
don't have the opportunity to screw something up or make mistakes or be real, you don't create the opportunity to find success inside of that.
There's no growth. I shouldn't say there's no growth, but growth is, it could go hockey stick like this right now is a hockey stick type growth because
Huge jump.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
Full disclosure, none of us do.
I'm looking at all this stuff, and yesterday I'm watching these videos, and after listening to or sitting with Ernest and him just kind of putting it on the table, and he's like, well, what if you just live streamed it? I'm like,
Wait, what?
I can feel myself viscerally react to it.
Yeah.
And there's a tightness, but it was different this time. It wasn't a apprehension and no, I couldn't possibly. I'm like, oh my God,
That's the move.
I'm ready.
Yeah,
We're
yeah.
ready to do this move.
Yeah.
And so it just happened so quickly. And the next day we're live streaming. It's
What's
not the way I
funnier is
wanted to
that
do it, but we're
you
live streaming.
forced your own commitment in. You know what? That was a great conversation. Let's keep the momentum. I'm just going to make a graphic and then I'm going to share it. And now you have no fucking choice. You
Actually,
have to do it.
That was my mindset. Yeah.
Yeah.
You know what else? There's another thing that I'm just noticing about that too is on that podcast that I was talking about earlier, the Wealth Without Bay Street podcast, they talked about people hear things, but it's the ones who are willing to just take action. And so you heard, hey, and then the first
Did
thing
you
you
catch
did,
it?
you made it real.
Yes.
You instantly, I don't know when, right after that meeting though, I'm asserting, it was like 2 p.m., you put a voice memo into the WhatsApp group and you're like, yo, this is what I'm thinking. I just had this meeting. This is what we're going to do. We're going to go live stream tomorrow. You made it real. It actually was in existence.
Yes.
And then I was like, oh, I'm in. Well, it wasn't until like 9 o'clock at night when I finally responded, but I'm like, dude, I'm totally in.
Yeah.
And now we're here doing it, right? So if you would have kept that inside, you could have had that dirty little secret, like, I think I might tell the guys we're going to live stream tomorrow. But we'll see. Maybe, right? You
And
instantly
then
made
how
it real.
long
You were committed
will
to
you
it.
offer space to objections to it? Your own objections to it. The longer you create that space, and you don't, this is like when you're like, if you're single and you're approaching somebody, it's like the longer you wait to do that approach, the harder it gets.
Well, the more
So you
reasons
have to-
not to.
Yeah, right? Because you just create. You're like, oh, she probably got a boyfriend, or she's not my type, or you'll put 20 reasons why you shouldn't make that approach. But if you just took action, you would have figured it out already.
You know where I'm noticing that for myself is in business. I used to be, oh yeah, you know what I'll do is I'll call Devin on Monday guy. That was me.
Yeah,
I'll
right.
call
I'll do
Devin.
that
I'm
later.
gonna call it first thing Monday. I'm totally calling Devin.
Yeah.
And now that voice, that is, by the way, the default that immediately comes up. I'll get a reminder or I'll think about someone. I'll be like, oh yeah, Darren. I'll call him. I'm gonna go, boop, and I just grab my phone, start dialing. What am I doing? Why the
Why
fuck
is
am
my
I
body doing this stuff?
No. I'm like, no, I stop myself and go, what am I doing? Why the fuck would I wait till Monday? What am I doing? Why don't I call him right now and just see? Like, I don't know when he's available. Like, I assume, I make all these assumptions. You know what? I probably shouldn't call somebody at 5:30 because that's air quote dinner time. Who the fuck has dinner at 5:30 anymore? Who has dinner at a specific time
Well,
anymore?
we do.
Well,
Where
our
do you think
lives
that
are.
comes from though for you?
It's old culture.
It's old culture.
story.
It's a. You mean not taking the action?
Yeah, not the space.
Yeah. So hold on. I want to make sure I understand your question. Where does that come from for me the default for me to be like, oh, I shouldn't call now or I'll call on Monday? Like procrastination. Yeah. It comes from my past. I mean, it comes from what I saw in life growing up. And again, it's that program. It's my default is to procrastinate. No, I'll do it later. But that's not actually who I am. Who I actually am. I don't know if you guys have ever heard of something called a Colby score, but I actually have a very high quick start. So I'm the type of person that if you get an idea in my mind, I'm at my best when I take immediate action.
Right.
But my default is to not take immediate action.
So,
and if I don't take immediate action, guess what doesn't happen? The thing.
Yeah.
Right? So I'm not going to call you on Monday if I don't call you right now.
In
Unless I make a commitment to it. Now I'll put it in my calendar and it happens. But anyway, sorry, go ahead.
Yeah. In the name of transparency, do you think that comes from a level of insecurity or uncertainty that you are capable of completing or fulfilling the thing that you want?
By default, hands down. Yeah.
Okay.
Again, it's when I'm disconnected. Dude, I'm not capable of anything.
Yeah.
I
don't want to like point it specifically at you, just for
No.
anybody that is listening or does find this, to do a quick self-examination of why you're not taking that action. Is it because you're insecure? And the difference between that action and your insecurity is the goal or the thing that you want in life. Is like, that's the only thing that's stopping you, is that one moment of hesitation just fucked everything up for you.
That is actually the exact conversation I've had with myself. You asked me earlier, have you ever taken a look? The only reason I can even speak to this right now for myself is because I have actually looked. And I've had that exact conversation. I'm like, what is it about? Why the fuck wouldn't I just do that right now? Why am I... I got to the point where I would ask.
You saw that it wasn't working.
Yeah, I'm like, wait a minute. I'm like, why am I waiting? What's going on? And then
It's
I
like
would...
a deep level of like, I can't do this.
Yeah, it's like, he doesn't want to hear from me. Or I'm not... What if he does want to hear from me? I'm not probably capable to take care of him anyway. Like, all this stuff would come in that's like not real. It's just like this bullshit, right?
Perception,
Yeah, and then again, like the fumbling through and then the starting the live stream, whatever, actually picking up the phone for the very first time and going, no, I'm just going to call him right now. And then I get off the phone and the conversation clearly goes nowhere near the way that I thought it was going to go. Good, bad, or indifferent, it doesn't matter. It just doesn't go anywhere near the way I thought it was going to go. And I go, oh, maybe I don't fucking know everything.
Well, and that provides evidence for you not to take action next time because you're like, I fucked up before.
No. What I'm saying is because I took action, it didn't, like, I thought I was going to fuck it up already.
Right.
It didn't go anywhere near the way that I thought it was going to. And these
Oh,
are like,
it didn't go negative.
yeah, it
like
didn't
you thought
go
it was. Right.
the way, I thought I have it all figured out. Devin probably doesn't want to hear from me, but then I called Devin and Devin goes, oh man, fuck, I've been meaning to
so
call
good
you.
to hear from
Thank
you.
God.
Yeah,
You
right?
called
And I
me,
go,
yeah.
oh, really? Oh.
I
Cool.
see it.
You
And
know,
when it
like-
comes to sales, I was of the frame of mind that I'm interrupting people and I'm a nuisance to them, which is in some cases, if you get your timing right, that obviously can occur. But in most of the pitches I've made over the last 60 days on this path here, I've noticed that everybody's like, man, your timing is really great because I've been thinking that I need the thing that you're offering and I just didn't know when, where, or how to start. And so what you're bringing to the table here is incredibly valuable, and I really do want to hear you. So thank you for bringing it to me, which was the opposite of what I thought. The absolute opposite
Go
of it.
figure.
Can I? This is amazing. Okay, so I'm gonna create this here, and you've probably experienced this because you're now seeing that success.
Yeah.
Okay, so tell me if you've experienced this. Have you reached out to someone like a comfortable, safe, easy person to reach out to who likely isn't actually your market, probably not your client,
Right.
and like wasted time and energy to try and convince them to do something with you?
Very much so.
I don't know what you're talking
Isn't
about.
that weird? So then, when you go and you actually go to see the people who literally have a want and a need for what it is that you offer, and you want to work with them. Oddly enough, they respond in a way that's like, oh man, I'm so glad you reached out.
Yeah.
Isn't that weird? Like, we're always trying to date fucking people who don't want to date you. What is that
Going
about?
for the easy mark never works out because you spend so much time. Again, you're wasting your time and energy on it. But if you go for the hard one, it's actually not hard at all. It was like so easy to quickly get that sale or whatever.
They were ready.
Close that deal.
It's actually more difficult to stay small and play inside the box.
Yeah,
What the
very
fuck
much.
is that? Right?
Because we
Costs way too much energy.
Yeah, we want to expand, and we keep not allowing ourselves to expand. We keep allowing those considerations and those reasons not to.
With that narrative, that dialogue inside.
And also, like, get that we all live in, we're all around the same age. It's not bullshit to note the fact that, at least when I was growing up, my mom always told me to stay away from the unknown. Basically, stay home, watch a show where it's fucking safe. Because you know what? It's a big wide world out there where weird shit happens and it's scary. Stay away from the unknown. We're taught that the unknown is scary, but that's, like you said, unknown, that is the space where creation occurs, right?
Chris wants to say something.
Well, David, to your point about all of the other considerations and things like that, and it's perfect that you brought the parents into the conversation and this type of thing, because what I'm hearing inside of this is that we're honoring an old paradigm.
Yes, that's what we talked about before, right? The hangover of our past generations.
Yeah. And what would it look like if we honored the old paradigm by never stepping foot in it again?
I'm totally down for that.
I'm down with that.
That's awesome.
Yeah, amen.
Well, certain things I actually want to ask you about this, because this is kind of where your area of expertise comes in from a spiritual perspective. So I've heard this, and I don't know if this is true because I haven't done the research, okay? But I've heard that if your grandparents experienced a famine, I heard that this is like scientifically proven, okay, biologically proven, that you're like, I don't know, making up the stat here, but you're like 50 or 60 or 70% more likely to be obese, or to carry extra weight.
Yes.
Just, that's it. That's all I'm going to say. So what do you have to say about that?
I can't speak to the numbers.
Yeah. Not the specifics. I'm just saying, like,
It
that shit's real.
likelihood.
That shit's real.
Correct.
Yeah.
Correct. Because the genetic information that you got passed down from your ancestors is, oh shit, resources are scarce. You might want to hold on to that.
Bulk up.
Yeah.
You might want to hold on to that because you don't know when you're going to get it next.
Right. So I guess actually the second part of my question then is, I'm starting to become more and more aware of my conscious and unconscious ways. Like, that's what we're talking about, right? Our default ways of being and whatnot. So how do you start getting connected to the things that you, I guess, I can't really see my thoughts either, but how do you get connected to those things, like the biology, the programming, the past generation? How do you start to clear that shit out?
That's a perfect question. That goes to what we were talking about earlier about releasing that stuff out of the physical body. And if you want to use psychoactive substances or things like that to facilitate that release process, your cellular structure listens to you 24/7. It listens to the level of consciousness that you have. It listens to the feelings that you have. It listens to what you're thinking. It listens to what your actions are. And so if you're acting and thinking and believing in a manner that backs up this idea that resources are scarce, we'll use that as an example.
In other words, binging?
Scarcity versus abundance.
Like, for as an example,
yeah, like
I'll-
binging and purging.
I'll tell you straight up. So one of the things that I'm currently working on is binging. So I binge. So I will eat whatever the fuck you put in front of me or whatever I can find later at night.
Yeah.
So I know that that's a habit that my mom had, right? But binging, that act is, first of all, it's very shameful for me.
Yeah.
And it comes from somewhere.
Yeah.
Right. And so I don't know what the fuck that's about, but just based on what you heard, the things that I think and the way that I act,
Yeah.
right, is
Or in
producing a
alignment.
certain type of behavior, which is binging. And so now,
So, Chris, there's a question.
Yeah, absolutely.
Matt's like, there's a lot of talk about the abundance of resources. But
Yes.
do you think it's possible that maybe it's a good thing because no one knows what the future holds, and perhaps resources won't always be abundant.
Ooh, Matt, that's a great question.
Could you just say that one more
Yeah,
time?
can we repeat that?
So there's a lot of talk about abundance of resources.
Okay.
Do you think that it's possible that maybe it's a good thing? And I think there's a piece that's missing here. It's a good thing because no one knows what the future holds, and perhaps resources won't always be abundant.
Oh, I think that's in reference to scarcity, Matt.
I think so. Yeah, that
am
makes
I on
sense.
track with that?
Yes.
Okay, cool.
That the scarcity mindset is a good thing.
Okay, cool. That there's a couple underlying contexts there that I think are missing when it comes to this concept of scarcity. We'll talk about resources. I think we'll first talk about this in terms of like natural resources, like we're talking like food and these types of things. One of the underlying assumptions that we have in modern culture is that the planet is not alive and doesn't know what the fuck we're doing on it.
Right. Yeah,
Like,
that we're
disconnected from it.
Yeah.
And it's disconnected from us. And that all of a sudden we're magically doing all of these things that are completely fucking the planet and humanity over. When the reality of it is the planet is conscious. It knows that humans are living on it. It knows that humans are working through what humans are working through. It knows that it needs to produce food to sustain the population of humans that are on it. It knows that it needs to be more or less geologically stable to support life, because we showed up as human beings on this planet at a time when the planet was really chill. If you look at the history of the planet was really chill, because that's the only point in the planet's evolution that we could sustain life. So the planet knows what's up. It knows what we're working through, and it will always provide what is needed. Now, what is needed may not necessarily sustain our society.
Yeah, there might be a balancing that's also needed, right?
And here's the other thing that what you're pointing to, and to Matt's point, is scarcity a good thing? Well, how did we get here? So in other words, there were people gathering in a certain area where things were pretty good for a while, and then all of a sudden it wasn't good for a while, and because they're humans, they were like, hey, you know what? We should get out of here and check out and see if there's other shit somewhere else that we can survive, right? So we can find a way, and there's always abundance. It just might not look the way that you want it to look. It might not be in your backyard. It might not be Calgary. It might not be Canada. It might not be whatever.
You may need to move.
You may need to move. You may need to just do something different, right?
But to Matt's point, resources will be abundant, provided that that's where you source yourself. If you source yourself in a place, and you can put whatever terminology you want to put on it. If you're sourcing yourself from a place of like this life that we have, this whatever you feel like animates you always has an abundance of energy, you will naturally be creating that. If you source yourself in a place of, like
we don't have enough,
I'm disconnected, I'm finite, you're going to get more of that particular experience. And so
can I share something like about this? This is hilarious. Okay. So check this out. I'm with my son last Friday, and I'm telling him, he asked me this question. He always asks me these questions. Hey Dad, what was your favorite toy growing up? What's your favorite toy? I told him, man, I'm a fucking junkie for GI Joes. Greatest action figure ever created. I fucking love GI Joes. The little 4-inch action figures, they were so cool. He goes, oh, that's awesome. We should get some GI Joes. And I go, buddy, unfortunately, I don't know what's going on out here in the world, but they don't make GI Joes anymore. They're really hard to come by. Air quote, I don't know that. That's my story. I just created that. They're really hard to come by. He goes, oh, really? Yeah. So all of a sudden we're like on Amazon and we're checking it out. Every fucking GI Joe on Amazon's $100.
Yeah.
Right? I'm like, oh my God. So, but then fast forward to the next day, he wanted to go to the comic book store. We already had that planned out, right? I go to the comic book store. We went to 2 or 3 different stores. Didn't really get the stuff that he wanted, and he was looking for action figures. So I Google, we got to go get Mom at the Costco near Airdrie. So let's go to Airdrie first. Let's go see what they have in Airdrie. I go to this place called Snap Collectibles. Shout out to Dave at Snap Collectibles. I go there. And guess what they have?
GI Joes.
Fucking They have 1,000 in the store, and he goes, Vern, this is about 10% of what we got.
Damn.
$10 a whack.
Wow.
I go, you're kidding me. You're kidding me. So it's
There's
just
an opportunity there in the arbitrage.
It's it's just interesting, right?
It's the perfect example, right?
Yeah.
The assumption is, no, there's not enough GI Joes in the world, but you don't know that.
I totally made that up.
Yeah, and then you went to a place, and it's interesting actually the timeline of it. So to your point, Chris, is like, are you open? Do you want that question, that observation challenged? Because you should go check out, what's the place again?
Snap Collectibles.
You should go check out Snap Collectibles. So you don't know that that's what's happening, but that's where you went, and oh, lo and behold, here's a nice little reminder of abundance where you thought there was some missing.
Scarcity.
Yeah, it was fascinating.
And this points to the collective shift that we're experiencing as human beings. Because the reality of this multiverse, or we'll speak of this particular universe that we live in, it's continually expanding. Do you actually think that there is a limit of resources in a continually expanding universe?
You can't even wrap your head around it. Like,
No.
it's just so unfathomable.
Yeah.
So the very idea that there's not enough of something when this that we live in is continually expanding is like incongruent.
Yeah, it doesn't work.
It just doesn't work.
Even the mere fact that I get there's problems out there. Okay, so don't roast me on this. But we've been told. Okay, we grew up in a world where we're very lucky, and we are to live in Canada where we have stuff, right?
Totally.
Because guys, there's not enough food in the world for people.
Yeah, they throw shit out.
Right. And then there was a point in my life many, many years ago when I was a kid. This is what I was like confused about. I thought to myself, like, and I'm not even kidding. I'm like, wait a minute. Like, don't we grow food? Like, how does that work? Like, how is there not enough? Like, I don't understand how that works. And then you start understanding how the world really works and profit and all that kind of shit. Yeah. And you start to realize, oh, okay, that's all bullshit. Okay, there's just some people for whatever reason that are suppressed in these silos that don't have access to these resources. And I want to say one more thing about abundance, because Chris was bringing this up. What is abundance really? Because I'll tie money into it for a second, okay? Back in the 1970s and prior to the 1970s, there was actually a lot less money in circulation on the planet. There was a lot less, air quote, resources going around, a lot less wealth. And what's interesting about it is that people had more money then, or at least they had less debt, way less debt. And what's interesting is the amount of money that's available now in the world and that's circulating is astronomically higher than it's ever been. And the wealth gap is bigger than it's ever been. Right. There's less people with more money than there's ever been, and there's more people with less money and more debt than there's ever been. So it's paradoxical. Right? They convinced us that having more money in circulation was good for us, but all it actually has done is drive up prices, drive up debt, and drive up inflation and drive up poverty.
So Matt has a follow-up question. Where does that position sustainability then? Assuming everything is abundant, does that even make sense for, an example, a large corporation to try and be more sustainable? I guess there's organizations in New York City that are stopping recycling.
So to me, abundance and scarcity is a perception. It's an idea. It's something that we created.
It is.
So the reality is abundance is the fact.
Yeah.
Abundance is the fact.
How we operate is different.
Scarcity is the perception that we create to drive something forward, to move people, right? I remember listening to wealthy people talk about there's money everywhere. You just have to go get it. And I'm like, what the fuck does that even mean? I'm broke. I keep talking to people about money and I'm still broke. So for me, I had a tremendous shift. Here's where it happened. My perception was I'm broke. I'm going to be broke. There's no way that I'm ever going to get beyond this. So everywhere I went, I showed up broke, right? I could dress up. I could wear Gucci and Prada. I could spend my paycheck on that bullshit to look like I had money. But when I talk to somebody with money, they know what money looks like. They know what money talks like. They know what money sounds like. So they know immediately this man is in scarcity. He's not in abundance like I am. I am in abundance. To liken it, if you're a guy who's got lots of girls, you have lots of options. When you try to approach a girl, you come across as a guy who's got lots of girls, and you're not trying to take something from that other girl. You're just there. What can I offer you? So in scarcity, you're like, what can I take? What can I take? What can I take? So here's where the shift happened for me. If I'm showing up everywhere broke, I ask myself, what would it feel like if I had $1 million in my bank account right now? How would my body feel? How would I talk? How would I act? And so I started to imagine that, and in imagining, this super power in just imagining something, visualize to win. Mm-hmm. Shoot the basket, it goes in the basket. If you visualize that, your chances increase, right? This is a fact. We all know this. Mm-hmm. So I visualized what it was like. I imagined my bank account with $1 million, and I just went, oh.
Oh, that feels good.
I'm fucking rich.
Yep.
And now when I show up in a meeting, I don't show up in that meeting like, please, I need your money. Please just pay me. I can do it. I'll do it. I'll just give me the money.
So
right? I show up in the meeting like, can I help you? Nah, I'll leave. And they're like, no, please don't go. So I create scarcity for them because I'm the resource now. I'm the abundant resource that they need inside of their thing. So that shift in how I show up is the difference between what abundance and scarcity is in the perception. So realizing that if a business is cutting things or doesn't feel like there's an abundance there, it's just because that business isn't listening. It's rigid. The people that are there are making bad decisions. And that's the reality of it. The people running that company are making bad decisions and not presencing themselves to the abundance. Kodak, you know who Kodak is?
Oh, very aware.
Yeah.
Still a company. They don't make Polaroid film anymore. I think I still own a Kodak TV.
Oh, I didn't even know they made TVs.
They moved. They shifted what they create as far because they had the power, they had the money. Tobacco, cigarette companies. Do you know where most of their money went?
Vapes.
Into vaping and into marijuana
cannabis,
and into other arenas. Okay, record labels, smart. When they realized they couldn't sell records anymore, where did they go? Do you know that the top 3 record labels own 17% of Spotify?
That makes sense.
That makes sense.
So
Right?
it's about an adaptability to it.
Yes, and that's the abundance.
And a belief that is available, and that is where the time should be spent. And it's not so the limitations for what the majority might be experiencing, which is the scarcity or like this isn't working, and we've tried that, which they didn't try, by the way. They thought they tried it, but they didn't actually put any effort into it. They thought it was a really good idea. They're caught in this way of thinking, and it prevents real innovation and true sustainability and that type of growth to arise. Like there's just no space available for it.
I actually remember the other day when we were talking, or one of these episodes, we were having a conversation about Yoda. We were talking about try.
Yeah, totally.
You know what's interesting? Because I've actually used that, by the way, with somebody the other day.
It's polarizing for people.
I was talking to somebody and she said, "Oh, I'm trying to do this. I'm trying to do that." And I said, "I want you to do me a favor." She goes, "What's that?" I said, "Is there something near you that you can just grab and pick up quick?" She goes, "Yeah, a ball of socks." I said, "Cool. I want you to try and pick it up." She goes, "Okay." "Yeah, I got it." I said, "Okay, but did you really try?" She goes, "Oh." Right away she got, "Oh, I'm either picking it up or I'm not." I go, "Exactly." So I think I just discovered in what you shared what trying actually is. Trying is thinking and not doing.
Totally.
There's nothing wrong with thinking, by the way. Like thinking is a good thing. But I'm saying, oh, we tried that. But really what trying is, okay, we all got together. We had a conversation about it. We thought about it and we decided not to do it.
That's right.
Okay, so you just didn't do it.
That's right. Yeah. It's really clean then at that point.
That was so brilliant, the way that you painted that picture for her.
Yeah, it was so good. Yeah.
So I hope that answers your question, Matt. And if it didn't, too bad, because I feel good about it.
Yeah. Awesome. Matt, thank you for the question.
I think it's awesome that I can.
I know Matt. That's the only reason.
I could be wrong. Like I think Matt's just like he's asking questions and
he's
interacting.
He's an inquiry machine.
Yeah, he's an inquiry machine. I think it was great.
Matt, what was your? He's got a YouTube channel and some really valuable content for videographers and whatnot. So we're going to make sure that we plug your YouTube channel on this episode. And thank you. I think he's driving. He said he's going to follow up in a minute.
Oh, that's
now
awesome.
That said, we are at an hour 15 the episode.
Wow, that's
Holy
crazy.
moly.
So, I would love to sit and jam probably all afternoon.
No doubt.
And that also doesn't work in our lives and what's going on. And so we're gonna just start to wrap it up here. And the first thing that I want to say and just acknowledge is our first. What's the word that I want to use? They're our first adopters.
Yeah, early adopters.
The early adopters.
To joining us on the live.
To be
live-
willing
live.
to just step in, and hell, we had somebody from India. That's pretty fucking cool.
Yeah, it's crazy, and some people made some comments. Regardless,
Yeah,
like,
there's
that's dope.
been engagement on this.
Driving the conversation forward.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating. Remember what it was like about an hour ago? Do you remember?
Yep.
It's like, oh, so we're in a live stream and there's nobody here, guys.
Yeah. We're like, so we're in an empty arena.
We're in an empty arena. And the arena got some people coming in and they actually hung around. And that is, it's so awesome. And thank you for entertaining the notion and the idea and just playing the game that is expanding. We don't know how it's going to go. We don't know what it's going to be like. You're going to just test it out. Is this something that's worthwhile? And we hope you did. We hope you did get some value out of it.
So 10:30 Mountain Time every week.
Matt said he really needed to hear that talk about abundance.
Oh, that's dope, man.
I couldn't turn this off.
Thank you.
Thank you, man.
Thank you, Matt. You
That's pretty
rock,
cool.
brother.
Yeah, he's a good guy.
I don't know if this is worth anything to anybody, but I'm having all these moments and they're all coming together collectively. Every once in a while I just realize like I am doing the coolest shit ever.
Yeah.
This is one of those moments where I'm just like, this was so cool.
Thanks, Ling.
Just to be here and do this and be a part of this. And I want to just like breathe
Take
it
that
in, drink it in, and just enjoy this experience as much as I possibly can. And for anybody else that's doing anything in their lives, try your hardest. Do or do not.
Try it.
Do something that's going to make you have that realization and say to yourself, fuck, this is cool.
Yeah. And I just want to say also, David, like to your point earlier about like going through the podcast journey that we've gone through and getting to the point that we've got to finally be, set up that now we're like, okay, we're just doing live stream. Like, again, that was part of the journey. And maybe this was the thing that we were actually working toward the whole time. Cause I don't know about you guys, but this was a completely different experience for me. I thought it was just so cool chatting with you guys and also having people chime in. It just gives like a completely new life, and it
almost
feels like
validates the conversations that we're having.
Well,
Yeah,
it
awesome.
richens the experience to a level we haven't experienced yet. So,
Yes.
and what we get to create moving forward. So, Matt, I got questions for next Saturday. That's awesome.
Hell yeah, man. We'll look forward to
we'll
seeing
see you then, brother.
Yeah.
We'll see you
Yeah,
later.
and on that note, this is going to be an ongoing occurrence. So right now it's audio, it's working for what we have available technology-wise, and maybe by next week we'll have video as a medium as well that can contribute to the experience, and it'll be here 10:30 Saturday. We hope to see you there.
Rock and roll.
Have a great rest of your afternoon, and thanks so much for playing with us.